What if I told you that one woman, in a kingdom built entirely on risk, found a way to turn the most dangerous business in the world into an act of justice? This is not a fairy tale. This is a reckoning. And it starts at the edge of the sea. Picture a city, coastal, ancient, alive, where the Atlantic Ocean breathes in and out, like a sleeping elder at the end of a long, long life. They called it Ile-Ayo, the city of fortune. Now here's the thing about Ile-Ayo. In most kingdoms, people feared risk. In Ile-Ayo, they respected it. The fisherman didn't just cast his net and pray. He made an arrangement. The farmer didn't just plant his yam and hope. He made a covenant. Even a mother, before releasing her daughter into another family's home, she made a contract. And the woman who understood risk better than any priest, any chief, any diviner rattling his cowrie shells in the dark, was one woman, Madam Adesuwa Olanike. Adesuwa Olanike. She wasn't tall, but she stood like someone who had argued with storms and won. 7 strands of coral beads around her neck. 1. For every year she rebuilt herself from nothing. She owned marble houses on the hill. She owned ships that never came back empty. And she owned the kingdom's first private insurance house. The sign above the door read, "People insured their farms, their ships, their jewelry. Some brave, foolish men even insured their marriages." But there was one product that people only spoke about in backrooms, muttered over palm wine, in the dark hours of the night. Human life assurance for servants, for people who belonged to other people. Now, why would anyone insure a human life? Stay with me, because the answer to that question is the whole story. Because here's what nobody in Ile-Ayo wanted to ask out loud. If you insure a ship and the ship sinks, you collect the money. If you insure a farm and the harvest fails, you collect the money. So if a wealthy man insures the life of his servant, when does he collect? That question is about to change everything. Now, every great story needs a young heart, someone who goes where the elders are too afraid to look. His name was Adewale, 17 years old, son of nobody important. His mother sold fried plantain near the harbor. His father went to sea when Adewale was 6 and never came back. Whether the ocean kept him or the wide world did, nobody knew. But Adewale was clever. Clever enough that Madam Adesuwa hired him to maintain her ledgers, those great leather-bound books where every policy, every risk, every human agreement lived in careful ink. He swept her floors. He filed her papers. And one afternoon, when the sea wind was howling and the office was empty, he found a ledger that should not have been left open. Dark red leather. And at the top of the page, in Madam Adesuwa's own handwriting, Human Life Accounts, Category 3. He read the names. 15 of them. Each one a servant, a worker, someone attached to a wealthy household. And beside each name, a sum of money. The amount their master had paid to insure their life. Adewale sat very still because he understood the way a clever boy understands something before he has words for it. That something was deeply, deeply wrong. He closed the ledger. He placed it back exactly where he found it. And that night, he did not sleep. Now listen. This is the moment where most people would have walked away, kept their job, kept their silence, kept their head down. But Adewale, he walked straight into Madam Adesuwa's office the very next morning. And what happened in that room? Nobody in Ile-Ayo expected. She looked up from her papers. She saw his face. And the woman who had argued with storms became very still. "You found the red ledger," she said. "Not a question. A statement." "Sit down," she said. He sat. And then she told him the truth. She said, and listen carefully here, "I created that product because men were already doing this thing in the dark with handshakes and whispers. No record, no accountability. Servants were dying and their families received nothing. I made it official so I could see it. I made it a contract so it could be broken." And then she opened her desk drawer and pulled out a second ledger. This one, green. The same 15 names, but different numbers beside them. Smaller, paid out quietly. Over time, Adewale looked up. "To whom?" "To them," she said. "To the servants themselves, to their mothers, their children. A portion of every premium rerouted for 11 years. 11 years! This woman had been running 2 ledgers. A red one for the powerful men who thought they were making an investment. And a green one, that was the truth. She looked at Adewale, the way a river looks at a stone it's deciding to go around. "The question," she said, "is not what I have been doing. The question is, what will you do with what you know?" That night, Adewale dreamed. And in his dream, he sat beneath the great Iroko tree at the edge of the city. The one so old, it had watched Ile-Ayo being born. And sitting across from him, eating a piece of yam with great, deliberate patience, was the tortoise. Not a small tortoise. Ijapa, the elder, the trickster, the one who has walked the earth long enough to know where all the hidden roads lead. "Tell me your worry in one sentence," Ijapa said. Adewale thought. "Then, a great wrong is hiding inside a great good, and I cannot see where one ends and the other begins." The tortoise looked up. What did the wise tortoise do when he found a mango ripe on one side, rotten on the other? He didn't throw it away. He cut out the rotten part and gave the ripe part to someone who was hungry. "The woman has built a vessel," Ijapa said. "The vessel is flawed, but the water she carries, that water is real, and the thirsty are thirsty." The question is never, is this system perfect? The question is always, who has the courage to make it more just than it was yesterday? Adewale woke before dawn. The harbor birds were already calling, and he knew exactly what he had to do. He didn't go to the authorities. He didn't expose her. He went back to Madam Adesuwa with a proposal. A new product, not hidden, declared. He called it Workers' Life and Dignity Assurance. The employer pays the premium, but the worker holds the right. Madam Adesuwa read it once, twice, 3 times. The sea wind pushed against her carved wooden doors. And then she laughed. Not a small laugh. A full, deep, coral beads rattling. Ships returning from sea laugh. She picked up her pen and she singed it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It was not easy. 3 of her wealthiest clients left immediately. Two threatened her in the street. One sent men to her marble house with torches. But the ancestral fire in the foundation of that house had been burning longer than their anger. It did not yield, and something extraordinary happened. The servants of Ile-Ayo, the ones whose names had always lived in other people's ledgers, they came to the Olanike offices, themselves, with their small earnings, their dignity, their names written in their own hands. They insured their own lives for themselves. 7 of the 15 names from that old red ledger came forward and claimed funds that had been quietly growing for years. The city watched, and the city learned. Within a year, 2 other insurance houses had followed. Within 5 years, the practice had traveled up the coast to 3 neighboring kingdoms. And Adewale, he opened his own office. Small, nothing grand, but above his door, he carved his own words. Your life is worth insuring. Come in and write your own name. And so, that is the tale of the woman who insured human lives. Not because she was perfectly good, not because the system she built had no shadow, but because she dared to look at the shadow directly. And because a boy with no father and a mother who sold plantain by the harbor had the courage to say, I see what you are doing, and I believe you can do it better, they say in Ile-Ayo to this day. A ledger that cannot be read in daylight is a ledger written for the wrong person. The worth of a life is not determined by who pays for it. It is determined by who holds the right to its story. Justice does not arrive like a storm. It doesn't break everything at once. Justice arrives like the tide, quietly, persistently, and it goes further inland every single time. Go well, and when you sit across from someone whose name is not in the ledger, write it in. This is why we tell this story. This is why we will always tell this story. If this story moved you, share it with someone whose name deserves to be written in. And if you want more tales from the kingdoms the world forgot to remember, you know where to find us.